This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast is brought to you by Dermalist. Incredible results for all skin concerns in just 3 steps and 28 days. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today my guest is Dr. Michael Molton from the Cosmetic Physicians College of Australasia. The CPCA have conducted a member survey with some very surprising results which you'll hear about today. The recent survey has shown an unprecedented surge in clinics seeing the emergence of new patients seeking non- and minimally invasive procedures during the last year, an unexpected but a very positive outcome for the practitioners in this time of COVID. Today, Dr. Michael Molton, a cosmetic physician since 1994 and inaugural foundation member and president of the CPCA, joins us to talk about the rise of patients and why non-invasive procedures have become all of the rage this past year. Here's Dr. Michael Molton and I for Beauty Industry. Dr. Michael Molton, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Thank you, Tamara. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Likewise to have you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and chat with us. I'm so excited to actually start back at your career entrance into the industry. Where did it start for you? What drew you to aesthetics?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think it goes back quite a long way. Back in when I was 19, I have a thing called pollen syndrome, which means I don't have a pec muscle on this right-hand side. I was very conscious about it in my teens, and I went across to see my GP, and he basically humiliated me and said that there were people out in the waiting room that had much more serious complaints and I should learn to live with it. And I must have sort of seeded something in my brain because when I was going through medicine, I realised, and doing psychiatry, I realised that these things play really strongly on people's minds. It was sort of a confrontational process for me as an individual, but it's helped me understand much better how patients present and why they present. So that's basically how it sort of started.
Interesting. Wow. I can't believe you got that response. You might have been quite taken aback there.
Yeah, I sort of struggled through the waiting room. People didn't realise why I was there. I used to go to, if I was going to the beach or anything like that, I'd drape a towel over my shoulder and cover those things. I was very self-conscious about it. So, appearance is very impacting upon one's self-esteem and confidence. So, I think an appreciation of that is very important when you're doing this kind of work.
Absolutely. And good on you for taking that vulnerability and doing something fantastic with it. And look where you are now.
For sure.
So can you just share with us, what is the CPCA?
Okay, so the CPCA stands for the Cosmetic Physicians College of Australasia. The CPCA evolved out of the Cosmetic Physicians Society of Australasia. I was one of 2 people, Katura Hoffman and myself, in Western Australia. In 1997, we there's still a bit of an argument about who called who. I'd never met Katura and she'd never met me, but out of the blue, through another doctor who introduced us, who's now retired, Dr. Kerry Kalis, introduced us and suggested that there were quite a number of people starting in this field and we should get together and formed some kind of allegiance with one another. And that's what happened. And it was in Western Australia, and it was originally the Cosmetic Physicians Society of WA. I recall very clearly the second meeting where we all sort of sat down after we'd introduced each other to each other. Somebody said, well, what should we call ourselves? And I said, well, we have cosmetic surgeons. We're not cosmetic surgeons, but what about cosmetic physicians? And it kind of stuck. So that title came out of that second meeting with 14 people around colleagues' rooms in Western Australia. And then what happened was in 1999, we had the New South Wales inquiry into cosmetic surgery. And suddenly people from the other side of the country, New South Wales, Victoria, well, certainly New South Wales, that's where the inquiry was being held. They were flooding in to try to find an organisation that they could find some membership to, that they could get some representation at the New South Wales inquiry into cosmetic surgery. So it became the Cosmetic Physicians Society of Australia, and then people across the Tasman all wanted to join as well, and so it became Australasia. So that's where we are today, and the college was formed as a proper teaching body for people coming in with an interest in cosmetic medicine to get training, ongoing educational activities, and to set standards that was cast in stone for patient safety.
Fantastic. Good on you. What a great initiative.
Yeah, so I was there from the beginning, and then there was a kind of a hiatus, if you like, of me getting on with things and the society getting on with things. And then in 2018, I was approached and asked if I would nominate as president for the college. And I had to think about it for a while and talk to my wife about it. And I said, look, this is going to involve a lot of work, but I think it's something I have to do. So on the basis of the trajectory that the college is on at the present stage, is to establish a registrar training program which is recognised by the Australian Qualification Framework, which is provided by a registered training organisation which is at arm's length to the college, that we provide the content. And this is an incredibly complex task. And we've been producing the content for the registrar training program and the number of units that are in it, and the assessment processes that meet the standards of the Australian Qualification Framework Level 8. So that's where we are at the present time.
Fantastic. Well done. I'm curious to know, what does it mean for a doctor to be CPCA certified?
The standards are rigorous. We have a membership committee, and there are certain hoops to jump through. First of all, you need to be 2 years postgraduate as a medical practitioner, and at least 2 years. And initially, you can join, providing you fulfil the necessary prerequisites, which are minimal for corresponding membership. So that gives them an opportunity to get in and find out what we're about without necessarily going down training programs and things like that. Just staying in touch, getting a feel for what is involved with cosmetic medicine, and to be, kept up to date with what programs that we're running for people that are not necessarily fellows or full members. So any of those applications, all of those applications are then assessed. And it may be that some of those people have been working in this field for a number of years. And if they can provide evidence of prior learning and experience and logbooks and so on, they can become a full member. They can't become a fellow of the college. Fellowship is sacrosanct. It's a standard which involves examination processes and injectables, in non-ionizing radiation devices, previously known as energy-based devices, so lasers, IPL, microwave therapy, the radio frequency, all of those things that we use that use energy to derive the outcomes that we seek with those devices, and cosmeceuticals. So there's a series of workshops that we run in advance of the program as it's set down, so that candidates who are undergoing that process can get a good idea of what the standard should be, so that when they sit the examinations, they're not going in cold. They know what level of expertise, competency is required. And then finally, at the end, they get a competency assessment. So these competency assessments are adjudicated by two lots of two fellows of the college. So they'll go into a room with patients, and they're quizzed about what they see and what they would do, and all these sorts of mechanisms. And then they're asked to conduct those procedures. And then they go on to another two examiners as well. And, you know, it's an arduous process getting to that point. You can't set a competency assessment unless you passed all those other previous exams, those theoretical exams. So once we get, and, you know, I have to say that a lot of people, probably 25% of those people that start out in the examination processes have to go back a step and do some retraining because they don't meet the standard. But when they do, now even then, there's an interview process with the membership review committee that says, okay, well, what makes you think that you should be a fellow of the college? So it's an arduous process.
Interesting. It sounds like you're really up-leveling and upskilling and, you know, holding people to quite a good account in terms of their knowledge and education.
Well, absolutely, Tamara. You know, I was just reading, just before we went to air here, an article that cropped up in the BBC program, BBC Three, about the disarray and the lack of safety that's going on in the United Kingdom right now. Going back as far as 2013 in that country, there was a report called the Keogh report, which looked at the cosmetic medical environment, if you like, that was occurring in that country. And of course, they have physiotherapists, dentists, they have beauticians, beauty therapists. All of these people are performing and purchasing, storing, and actually administering the medications that we hear are allotted to and controlled by the Therapeutic Goods Administration as Schedule 4 prescription-only medications. So they're in a terrible mess, and it's been because of a lack of appetite by the regulators to recognise that this is a bona fide area of cosmetic health, so it's really encouraging that we've been able, as the college, I've personally been involved with consultations with New South Wales Health Department over the last 2 years, and that was one of the promises that I made when I was elected as president. And what we've seen just now, and it becomes gazetted and law in New South Wales in September this year, that through the discussions that we've had with New South Wales Health Department, that we've now agreed on what is an authorised practitioner in cosmetic medicine. So this has been a step in the right direction to prevent the sort of circumstances that could easily have evolved here in Australia and become out of control as it is in the United Kingdom. And, you know, once you go down this pathway, it's very difficult to come back. And this is what they found, is that in the UK they've tried to say, okay, if you've got this much experience and you've been doing this for this many years, you should be doing this, but it's still only voluntary and a very low pickup rate.
Interesting. Oh my goodness. It'll be watch this space for what happens there. I'll definitely have to keep an eye on that movement.
Yes, there's a lot of concern. Scotland has done extremely well. They've got a really great idea, and that is that there's a site where the public, I suppose it's a little bit like, you give them the stars for your Uber driver or something like that. So there's this government funded site that consumers intending to or are looking to find an appropriate and recognised person or clinic, and they can be rated on this particular website.
Right.
And of course, once you get a nexus, if you like, of a group of people, then the competition starts. And so everybody in that country now, that registration page now grows daily. And this is a great thing that the public are able to see. And we have here in Australia, I always say to our patients, we love Google reviews. We don't just love Google reviews from our point of view. Mm. We love it because the patients who are out there, the prospective patients that don't know where to go, and let's face it, it's really difficult in Australia to be able to let people know exactly what kind of products are out. You can only use generic terms like dermal fillers and anti-wrinkle injections and things like that. So there's a load of information that's just inaccessible to the public. So we have Google reviews, and we love Google reviews because our potential patients, are seeking that information to find out who are the best people to go and see.
Yeah, absolutely. That word of mouth is intangible, isn't it? After the break, Dr. Michael shares with us how we can keep this increase of clients returning to our clinics. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. Community, if you're looking for a multifunctional Australian skincare range that offers better results, better client compliance, and an uncompromising approach to quality, luxury, and ethics, then it's time to speak to Dermalist team about becoming one of their exclusive stockists. To inquire, simply contact sales@dermalist.com and mention the Beauty Industry Podcast for 10% off your opening parcel. Dermalist, the future of cosmeceutical skincare is here. Thank you so much to the team at Dermalist for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now, back to Dr. Michael Molton. Speaking about patients, the CPCA conducted a survey which recently showed a surge in patients that were seeking procedures during the last year, which is quite unexpected, but a very positive outcome for the industry as a whole, especially post-pandemic. Why do we think that this surge of patients has come through the doors?
Yeah, I think there's a number of reasons. From a practical point of view and a personal point of view, the first 8 patients that walked through my door after our lockdown, which thankfully was around about 6 weeks here in South Australia, we were really fortunate in that point of view. The first 8 patients said, I saw my face on Zoom. And the 9th person came in and I said, don't tell me, you saw your face on Zoom. How do you know that? Because the last 8 patients just told me exactly the same thing. Wow. So that was very common. And of course, I was able to, having experienced that myself, done a lot of Zoom meetings and seeing my own image, a couple of things happened. Well, I'll cover that in a second. But what I realised very quickly was you have to do this right. You have to get the lighting right. You have to, otherwise it looks terrible. And I found this really good instructional. YouTube's great, isn't it? They had this fantastic presentation by this influencer in the US, I think, and she did this demonstration about how she looked 70 one minute and then 50 the next. And so, I was able to transfer a lot of that and pass that information on to a lot of patients, saying, it's not as bad as you think, don't be too hard on yourself. It's not quite like you just get your lighting and pay attention to a few more things, and I think you'll find it's not quite so bad as you think. So that was the first thing. I think the next thing was disposable income. People didn't have anything to spend their money on. And they were seeing their face on term. So, kind of a natural progression. Well, I've got the money now. Maybe I should look into this a bit more. So, and then, finally, a lot of people have been putting these things off for a period of time. And I think lockdowns, certainly from our point of view, make you think a lot. There's not much else to do, is it, really?
That's true, yeah.
You can find all sorts of, things to pass the time, but that doesn't stop the brain from working. And I think a lot of people were going, wow, I didn't see this coming. I need to look after myself better. I need to feel better about myself. I need to spend more time thinking about me. So I think that's the third reason, and that seems to be fairly consistent with what the study actually found.
Yes, well, I too know that feeling of looking at a Zoom all day and thinking, I could tweak this little bit here, or why is this so droopy?
You don't need anything. You're gorgeous. It's beautiful from here.
Oh, thank you so much. There has also been a massive 41.5% increase in new patients who have never previously had any aesthetic treatments, which is quite surprising. What do you think about the past year has reached that clientele? Because that's a huge number.
It is a huge number. And I have to say that, that we're still trying to kind of work that out. Why that is, but I think really what it comes down to is the influence on social media during lockdowns. People are talking more about these things to one another, whereas there's been you could have a conversation with someone over FaceTime or something like that, and very quickly in lockdown you're going to run out of things to say.
Sure.
And then people start, did you see the Kardashians the other day, or did you see so and so the other day? Did you see that girl? These sorts of things. They've become a much more one-on-one discussion because it's in private, whereas people have been really reluctant to just be in a cafe and people looking at us talking about this. I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about it in private, and that lockdowns have created that environment.
And it's also become a lot more acceptable to have cosmetic treatments. I think it was very shunned upon even 5-10 years ago, versus now it's kind of almost like a status. Look, I got my lips done, or look, I had, this anti-wrinkle treatment. It's quite the shift.
Yeah. I think that those things are all pretty important drivers. But I think one of the things that we're forgetting here is that there's been a reluctance to undergo some of these things because of some of the complications that have been occurring because of lack of training, 2-day courses, 1-day courses and things like that seem to, give the false impression to the person that, you can get 20 people paying $5,000 for a 2-day workshop. That's $100,000 and you have 2 operators. That's pretty good money. but it doesn't do anything for the educational quality of what they're providing. True. And this is the thing. So there's been a lot of holding off of people going to, because they're not sure of who to go to. And I think that I'd like to think that the Cosmetic Physicians College of Australasia has been a big part of, with our Get Real campaign that we began in late 2018, that emphasised that these treatments and procedures are real medicine. We're using real prescription-only medications. There are real potential complications, and these are magnified if you don't go to a real person who's had real training. So the word real featured in a lot of at that staged release of that campaign across the networks and through the media. And I think people are now going, well, there are people out there that have sufficient training. And we're seeing our website, the CPCA, at cpca.net.au, we have a Find a Doctor there section, and that the traffic that's coming through that now is steadily rising, and it just continues to be used all the time. So people now are realising that there are people out there that know what they're doing, been around like me, 25 years doing the same work, 5 days a week, and they're finding people that they can trust.
Fantastic. And when they find these people, one of your research showed that they're wanting multiple treatments per visit. Do you think we're trying to play catch up because we have been in lockdown, or is it the worry about, well, we could go into lockdown, so I better get as much in as possible?
Well, here I have to make a personal observation, I think. Patients, they don't want to make too many visits. So if it's safe to do so at the advice of the practitioner, they're going to have those procedures done together if they can, because just in case there is a little bit of downtime that's required, that's all going to be completed in a single visit. So it's a matter of convenience, providing, of course, that it's safe to do so. So I think that this is really the issue, is that people are busy. They're, especially coming out of lockdown, trying to catch up with all their work and the changes of working from home and all these sorts of things. People want the minimum amount of number of visits that they can get their work done. So I think this is a big influencing factor.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's also interesting to note that it's not just anti-wrinkle and filler that a lot of these patients are actually coming in for, but they're seeking, non-surgical treatments rather than a quick fix. Has something tipped the scales in terms of that procedure's favour? I mean, obviously, if we are hiding out in our house, we have a lot more time to, kind of recover. That's all I can kind of think of.
And that is correct. It depends on the degree of the lockdown, I suppose, because, when it comes to non-essential services, the work we do, whilst it provides a great benefit to patients' appearance and self-esteem and all those positive things that they get out of their procedures, we can't be working under those circumstances if there's a complete lockdown, because we're not an essential health service. We are a health service, but it would be the same if you wouldn't be able to go to your physiotherapist or all of those sorts of things. So yes, I think where places have got some restrictions and they can still provide those services and they're working from home, then yeah, for sure. And you've made a good point there. And I'm just casting my mind back to the last few patients that I've seen in the last week, and a couple of them have actually stated that for sure.
Interesting. I feel like there's quite a wariness in patients, particular now, and clients who are a lot more vigilant, who are looking for somebody who is quite qualified and certified than perhaps they would have been pre-COVID. Why do you think this shift has happened?
I think there's been more information available about the sorts of things that can go wrong. I mean, earlier this year we saw a current affair, and the sorts of things that were happening to people. And you have to congratulate those people for coming forward, because one of the things that is a bind for the regulators to understand is that, and they are beginning to understand it, is that there is this underreporting, because people have felt that they blame themselves, so they really don't want to raise a fuss about something that's happened. But now we're starting to see those things, the braveness of people coming forward and saying, this happened to me and I don't want it to happen to someone else. And it happened because I made an error in judgment. And I shouldn't, I should be entitled to believe that I would be protected from this kind of conduct when I'm not. And you mentioned the word clients just a moment ago. I want to just spend a second or two talking about that, because I always make that distinction between clients and patients. Patients are people that you, as a medical practitioner, as a health practitioner, have a duty of care over, which precedes your welfare, revenue, income, call it whatever you like. Patients need to be looked after. When you have clients are somebody, in my book, this is my interpretation, clients are somebody that you sell everything you can to, whether they need it or not. So you're doing it for the benefit of yourself as a salesperson. So, I always try to make that, take that opportunity to make that emphasis when that word client comes up, because we're really dealing with patients. And it was very, very gratifying to see in the New South Wales health legislation announcement that's coming into place in September that they talk about cosmetic health services. That's a huge leap forward that people are starting to realise, in that those that are, conscientious in their regulations and the production of the legislations that protect people. It's good to see that being recognised finally.
Yes. Yeah, I do see the delineation between patients and clients. Clients almost feels like a transaction's happening almost.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. And of course, the transaction does happen, but
yes,
if you look after the patient, the patients that I've seen just prior to this podcast today are all patients that have been coming to me for years. And they have established a relationship much the same as they would with a general practitioner, I suppose. Unlike someone that might have a surgical procedure, for instance, and breast augmentation, we hope you're only going to get one of those. But often that's not the case. But so it's a kind of one-off, or every 5 or 6 years, whereas a lot of our patients we see 2 or 3 times a year, once every year, once every 2 years, once every 3 years, but they keep coming back.
Yeah, that's the magic, isn't it? So then, with all of this growth that's happened in the industry, how can we keep this growth happening? We don't want to go back to normal times where everything opens and the numbers drop. We do want to, keep that trajectory going in a positive movement upwards. How can we ensure that?
I think that the ways to do this and I attended a technical advisory group meeting with one of the suppliers, joined with 7 or 8 other people around the country on Saturday morning, discussing where we are with things. And the key is that is collaboration and ethics, and that provides confidence once that's projected out into the community, that the various groups are working together. And there are quite a few groups that can claim that they have some expertise in this particular area. And we all have some differences that delineate us, if you like. But there's things that unite us. And so through an organisation we have created in Australia, and it's part of APEC now, the Australian Ethical Healthcare Alliance. So the college and a lot of other similar organisations have joined the AEHA, which is on the world stage with APEC, about ethical healthcare. So we're not just seeing this in cosmetic health services, but we're seeing this across the board now, where there's a realisation that there's been an overall loss of faith, if you like, by the public in general. And we're an integral part of that organisation, the Australian Ethical Healthcare Alliance Group, and we'd encourage a lot of any health organisation to join that and get around the table and set down some standards that we can all be proud of and project into the community to give people the confidence of going forward. So these are the sorts of things. If you have that kind of framework, then people will feel much more confident that they're going to be looked after, and that it's not all about money. It's about looking after the patient.
Absolutely. And I love that so much. What a great note to end on. Dr. Michael Molton, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me today. It's been very insightful, and you've given me some hope and excitement for the future of cosmetics.
Thank you very much for asking me tomorrow. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
One thing we know for sure is that beauty and aesthetics is recession and pandemic proof. I've said it before, but the fact that the CPCA has completed a study and found the evidence to show that trend, plus the increase of services to be exact, is fantastic to see. If you would like to see more from the CPCA, you can do so by heading to their Instagram and searching for Cosmetic Physicians College AU. While you're there, feel free to show us some love by following us at Beauty Industry, or head on over to the website to read our latest digital magazine, browse our shop, or join our Club Beauty membership. Thank you for your time and your ears. Until next time, stay connected.